We went to the Elephanta Caves.
Play the theme music. Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alun and I'm here with the ever overheated Adam.
Overheated's right, mate. I mean, we talk about it every episode, don't we? But it is ripping.
Oh, I mean, we're kind of struggling a little bit with the heat because it's unlike anything I've ever experienced before.
I don't want to go on about it too much, but I would agree. I've not been in a place that has made me feel so sweaty. I just can't describe. I'm not sure it's podcast material.
Well, it's become a medical issue for me to take outside of the podcast and perhaps see a doctor about, because I just feel like I'm constantly in a state of irritation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm sweating from places I've never sweated from before.
I've even seen that with my own eyes.
Yeah. And it really, this whole heat dilemma that I've been suffering from, it came to a head during our recent trip. We went to Elephanta Island off the coast of Mumbai.
Yeah, and I would also say that lots of people told us, or me specifically, that it was going to be unbearably hot at a certain point.
They prepped you?
Yeah, they said, don't go there in summer. It's going to be so hot. It's going to be unbearable. You won't like the humidity, etc., etc. I thought, well, what's the alternative? Just not going.
To Elephanta or to Mumbai?
Just Mumbai, I think India in general. You know, everyone heads north. It's really important that you know just how hot it's going to be, because you won't be able to take it.
Get north on account of the fact that the south, anything below Mumbai is like uninhabitable, and Mumbai, you might be able to handle it, but probably not.
Well, I thought, I've been to hot places before, so how bad can it really be? And I think yesterday I felt just how bad it's going to be.
Yeah, Elephanta Island. It's an island that, I mean, it appears in some of Leonardo da Vinci's manuscripts. It's like it...
Does it?
Yeah. It holds a respectable point in history as being a pretty incredible place. There's these ancient caves, Hindu sculptures. We've raved on about Hindu sculptures on this podcast. We're almost becoming a Hindu sculpture podcast because I am in love with, you know, that sort of art, that sort of Hinduism culture. I'm really into it. We've discussed all that previously.
We're branching away from cricket.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're like a religious podcast. We're an overheating podcast. But the reason all this is...
And for any new listeners, backpacking podcast.
Yeah.
Also a travel podcast.
If this is your first time tuning in, Tripology. We love backpacking. We love travel. You could be fooled by the absolute abundance of cricket and Hinduism content. That actually we have multiple branches that we discuss and deal with. But this is why we wanted to go to Elephanta, despite the heat, despite waking up a little bit late that day.
My fault.
Knowing that we were combating the midday sun. Yeah. We decided to go for it because who are we to argue with the recommendations of Leonardo da Vinci?
I know, and I have to hold my hands up. It was my fault that we got out a little bit late. I ate some choice food the night before, which ensured that I didn't get ready on time. Anyway, let your imaginations do the work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not holding that against you.
Okay, good.
Because I texted you that morning and I said, what happened to 8 a.m.? We said we were going to be out the door at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
You sent me just a couple of words.
What's to the effect of?
Words to the effect of, I'm indisposed in the bathroom. I said...
I'm brushing my teeth really, really well.
Really thoroughly. I'm having a thorough toothbrushing, and I took that to be no worries. Don't worry about it. Let's leave at 11 a.m. because I understand, I empathize. It's a difficult situation, so no problem.
But there we were. It was about as hot as it was going to get, and we decided to leave, and just walking around trying to get a ticket for a boat in that heat is quite stressful, really.
Doing anything in that heat stressful. Yeah. Thank God we're such good friends in actual real life.
Yeah.
Because there's very few people that wouldn't have frustrated me to a point of just walking off into an icebox at that time. It was so brutally hot. We got onto the boat. We managed to procure a ticket. We get onto the boat. And now we're in an environment that we're stuck. We're trapped for an hour in a box that's moving across the sea, and you think, oh, beautiful, breeze.
Yeah.
No.
No breeze.
We're all packed like sardines onto this boat, moving from Mumbai to Elephanta, and you start to see people's lives get disrupted one by one. If you look around the boat, you start to see, oh, okay, that guy's perspiring. He's got a little handkerchief. He's rubbing his forehead. Okay, those girls over there look quite miserable. Oh, this person's T-shirt is drenched. This person's becoming see-through. All their sartorial like vestiges are becoming absolutely transparent with what can only be described as sweat.
Yeah, I remember thinking about 5-10 minutes into the journey, because we hadn't done that much research, asking a guy next to us, oh, how long's the boat journey? When I could feel the heat really starting to set in. He went, oh, it's just an hour. I was like, oh, great.
Dear.
Oh, brilliant. And what I did like about the journey was that I felt like, because we were the only two foreigners on the boat, that maybe it was going to be us that suffered the most. But I was comforted by the fact that everyone was going through hell.
It was like universal, wasn't it?
Yeah, you look around and no one is having fun. Everyone's wiping their forehead. There's sweat dripping off people. I made a joke that we could refill our empty water bottle with the sweat dripping off my arm.
I mean, it's not far from the truth. My T-shirt was completely transparent. My hairs on my arm were just like matted down like I'd just been in a swimming pool. Yeah. And my fingers did that wrinkled thing that they do, which is an evolutionary adaptation to grab things under the water.
Yeah.
My whole body was like, oh, you've taken a dip in the sea.
I know. It's definitely the wettest I've ever been without having been in water beforehand.
My only analogy to it is I used to train Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
In Canada.
Yeah.
And because it was so cold outside, the heating was on in the gym. So I'd spend like 2 hours rolling martial arts in heat. Sometimes I would get about that sweaty then.
God.
But to get as sweaty from being on a boat as you would from doing 2 hours vigorous exercise with the heating on.
Yeah. Sitting still.
Yeah.
It's so impressive. And like I said, no one was having a good time. It was really nice, actually. It was a sort of funny way to interact and connect with people looking across the boat. And we're all kind of looking at each other going, oh, you're sweating as well. I can see it dripping off your forehead and your nose and your elbows. And your shorts were completely sodden.
Yes, my shorts were wet. It's crazy. But there's an interesting banding together that happens in trying times. It was a bit like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it definitely was like that. And then, of course, the inevitable photography that comes with being the only two foreigners on the boat. We had to do a couple of photos with some new friends, and I always like to put my arm around people in those moments.
Do you?
Yeah.
I like to sort of stand off to the side.
It was the poor gentleman next to me. I'm sure he felt exactly the same way about me, but it was like putting my arm into a waterfall.
Okay, yeah. So he approached you for a photograph, not anything to do with tripology.
No.
Just because you were a white guy on a boat in Mumbai.
Yeah.
So he approaches you for a photograph, and then you're dealing with the fact that, oh, actually, we're both like slippery eels.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Isn't it?
My natural reaction, my knee-jerk reaction, is to just pop my arm behind someone and pose for the photo, which I think is normal. But when that's met with, oh my God, I don't know what's wetter, my arm initially or his back. And then once, I mean, that's how people come together. Living in Hong Kong as well, incredibly humid. And they do have this thing here that, like, in Hong Kong, if you're willing to hug someone else in the height of the summer when it is like 95% humidity, you're incredibly close friends. Because you're sharing sweat, effectively.
Yeah, it's quite intimate. There's an intimacy.
Very, yeah, totally.
Intense temperature whilst travelling. The coldest I've ever experienced is -40 in Edmonton.
That's pretty cold.
That's where you can't go outside for more than like 30 seconds without getting frostbite.
Yeah, the way I explain those temperatures to people is that it's so cold that you cannot make a mistake.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake, you die.
Oh, I left my Parker at home. Death. Yeah, exactly. Well, this might be the hottest I've ever experienced. Like, the jungle was similarly humid, but less hot. There were places in Africa that were hotter, but less humid.
Right.
But this sits in a sweet spot of, like, it's very, very hot. How many degrees would you say it was?
38.
38.
I looked.
Okay. But very humid as well.
Yeah.
And the resultant kind of issues it's almost intolerable.
Yeah. And the boat trip overall was quite enjoyable.
I liked it.
About an hour.
Yeah.
And then we got off And then we had a roughly 20-minute walk in the beating sunshine to get to the caves, which I think you thoroughly enjoyed.
I enjoyed those caves. I don't want to go off on another vitriolic rant about how Hinduism speaks to me on some level.
You start going on about some carvings and I'm like, put some shade at fucking last.
I was giving I talk about Hinduism and stuff with such like curiosity and like excitement nowadays that a guide came up to us and was like, do you guys want to know about Hinduism? And Adam was like, I think we're set. Me ranting off about Ravana and Ram and stuff. He was like, crikey.
You're going to start taking work away from him.
Yeah, not that I think I have anywhere near that level of knowledge, but I mean, what I lack in actual genuine knowledge, I make up for in just vehement enthusiasm, I think.
Yeah.
But they're very beautiful, those caves. I can see why they're really recommended as a thing to do whilst in Mumbai. I think they're sort of made more special for me by the fact that they're quite hard to get to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I always feel, I don't know if other people listening to this will resonate with this, but when I go to places that are historic in that way, I always regret that I wasn't able to see it and experience it in its heyday.
Oh, when it was first made.
Yeah, it could even be a castle.
Yeah,
I'd just like to go back in time and see what that was like when it was,
I totally understand that. Yeah, built as shrines, these caves a lot. They're like shrines to Shiva and they tell stories of like Hindu mythology.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. Yeah, what would it have been like to see when those were actually used for worship? It would have been a fantastic thing. But I felt that way all over the world. Like, imagine looking upon the pyramids at Giza.
Yeah, totally.
When they were like functional monuments to existing kings and stuff, pharaohs.
Yeah. That's probably the best example.
I think that's the one that I felt that the most strongly at.
Yeah. Or Mayan or Aztec civilizations.
Because so much would be revealed because the textbooks say that those structures are thousands of years old, but there's certain people that think maybe we're talking more like 10,000 years old and they're much older than you think. It'd just be interesting to have those questions answered, wouldn't they? It would be interesting to ask people who were building those shrines what their perspective on Hinduism is, because obviously that's evolved over time. It'd be interesting to ask the people who existed around the pyramids in their heyday, like, what did these mean to you? How are they constructed? It's just like history would reveal itself if you could actually go back in time. Wouldn't that be the ultimate travel?
It would. It certainly would. Maybe that's where the guide would come in handy.
Yeah.
He could have answered a few of those questions, bless him. He was trying hard. He was persistent, wasn't he?
I think he was more persistent than anyone I've ever met. And I've been to nightclubs in Manchester.
Yeah. He was like, please, I just want some shade.
Yeah. And then like we said no and he switched to Spanish.
Yeah. And if anyone's been to those caves, it'd be interesting to see whether they had the same interaction with the security guards that we had, because it was quite weird.
Curious.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened was a security guard with a concealed phone within his torso, like behind his shirt, but evidently there, kind of went up to us and he was like, magic photo?
Yeah, trying to get us to have a photograph of, we think it's just us two in front of a shrine.
Yeah, he was like, magic photo. You guys stand there in front of Shiva. I'll take a magic photo with this concealed rectangle beneath a blue shirt. And I think what it must have been is that his employer doesn't want him to take photos, but he knows like maybe he can make a quick buck if he takes a photo of some tourists. Because it was all very like...
Oh, you think he would have then asked for money in exchange for the photo?
That was my perception. But it's interesting. I mean, we've both been traveling a long time. What was your instinct?
I thought it was all so strange. I couldn't work out what his motives were.
I think it was that. I think he's hired to stop people from breaking bits off like a Ganesh statue.
Right.
But he's thought, I'm making very little money on the whole Ganesh chip.
Yeah.
I think.
My job's pretty easy.
Yeah. Turns out a lot of people who visit Elephanta caves aren't trying to break the monuments. But what a lot of people are doing is taking photos.
Yeah.
I can cash in on that perhaps.
Yeah. I don't know. And maybe you're right, because he wasn't the only security guard that came up to us and said that sort of thing, was he?
No, it was a whole hustle.
Yeah, so, I don't know, weird. Just watch out for that kind of stuff if you're quite naive. Maybe it would have been fine. Maybe he was just...
Maybe we're naive. Maybe we just missed out on a great picture.
Yeah, he just didn't ask it in a way that seemed genuine.
I think it was the use of the word magic that threw me off. Because, I mean, I maybe would have trusted him if he's like, guys, I'll take a picture of you. But is it magic? Is the magic the fact that it makes you slightly richer?
Yeah, well, yeah, assuming that he is going to ask for money. But overall, really nice experience. Really enjoyed walking around the caves with you as well, mate, because you are a wealth of knowledge and a great person to travel with in that regard. And then, we just kind of sauntered around, tried to stay out of the grips of heat stroke.
I think that was actually the last thing on the quintessential list of what to do in Mumbai if you're a tourist that we'd not done yet.
Yeah, do you know what's funny about that, right? So just before coming here to record, 2 new people came into the dorm and they'd just arrived in Mumbai, and they asked us, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been here? And we said, 1 month in the same hostel, which is true.
Because we're trying to build a global travel community. We're growing the podcast.
We love it here. And they said, oh, great. Well, we're going to be here for 5 days. What would you recommend doing?
Elephanta Caves.
And I went blank. I thought, well, what you could do
is start a travel podcast.
Is just extend your trip by 3 weeks and just live in this hostel for a month, because I would highly recommend it. It's awesome. But no, you're right. I mean, we seem to have ticked off quite a few things, but have they been the best things we've done in Mumbai? I would argue no.
I think the best thing we've done in Mumbai is speak to the people. And there is something that I'd like to speak to the people about. I mean, don't hold your breath. We're about to go on a brief meditation break, and I'll see you in a second. Like a bead of sweat dripping from the forehead of a perspiring hominid, allow our conscious minds to drip into our brain boxes, because it's time. I mean, there's an item that I want to do.
I know which one. I miss it.
Yeah, we miss it. We all miss it, partly because I have a certain soft spot for the theme music.
It's very, very catchy, and I'd be amazed if at least 50% of the audience aren't humming it immediately after.
Play it now.
Alun's miscellaneous travel item. Oh yeah, it's the one thing I can't live without, I swear.
Oh my God, that's it. It's Alun's miscellaneous travel item. It's back by unpopular demand. And I've got something I want to talk to you about, Adam.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Is it miscellaneous?
It's miscellaneous in its nature, but I know you have opinions on it as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of a combined miscellaneous travel item.
Yeah, spill the chickpeas.
It's nothing short of, I mean, it happens a lot. It's a phenomena.
Okay.
Is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Specific to?
I mean, I've not experienced it outside of this country. Seems to happen here a lot.
We're not saying it doesn't happen outside the country.
I mean, look, maybe you've experienced this somewhere else. I've experienced it here. Okay.
Yeah. Go on.
It's people answering their phone at crazy hours.
Yeah.
I'm talking in a dorm room.
In close quarters.
12-man dorm.
Mm-hmm.
16-person dorm. Mixed bed dorm.
Middle of the night.
4 a.m. A phone rings. I awake from my slumber to some arbitrary ringtone. Surely my fellow traveller will be embarrassed that their phone's going off, because I would be.
Yeah.
If my phone rang next to my bed, I go, Jesus, I should have put that on vibrate.
At the least, I would say.
Should be on vibrate. My bad. I pressed the red button because obviously I'm in a close habitation with other human beings who are asleep.
Yeah.
Can't help but notice a lot of people answering the phone here.
Yeah.
A lot of people choosing to press the green button when their phone rings at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, then loudly having a conversation.
For a long time.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Dealing with the call.
Oh, no, not bad. Yeah, just sleeping in a dorm room, 4 a.m. What are you up to? It's also 4 a.m. where you are. It's happening a lot.
It is happening a lot. And it's, at the very least, it's funny content, we hope.
It's driving me, and I think my mind is unraveling.
Right.
I'm underslept.
But, I mean, what is doing the damage? Is it that we're incredulous and we can't believe that someone would do that in the setting that it's in? Or is it the lack of sleep that we're getting as a result of said thing?
I think it's both. I mean, look, let's talk about it a little bit because we've actually had listeners email in the show, like people who are traveling around India.
Yeah.
We've had people, this could also be a hostel common room, you know? People have emailed in and been like, I've been traveling around India. Can we talk about the phenomenon of people answering their phones in the middle of the night? I've experienced it in Bangalore. I've experienced it in Chennai.
Right.
And now I'm experiencing it here in Mumbai. I've talked to a lot of people about it.
Yeah, can I just disarm the listener at this point as well?
Yeah, of course. Do an Expelliarmus.
because I've said this about myself in the past and to other people. If we cared that much, we'd get a private room.
Yeah.
So, we get that. We get that.
Totally.
I mean, if we were that bothered with the extra noise and what have you, sure, we'd go and get an Airbnb for a couple of nights, whatever. But we are just saying that if we were in a room with many other people and the phone rang at 4:00 in the morning, we might not answer it.
Definitely not, right? And I've spoken to lots of people about this. I've spoken to friends that I have who live in this country about it, and their response has never been either they've never stayed in dorms and they don't really know that goes on, but they can imagine it, or I've heard a few people say, yeah, it's just like a thing. Things in India have their volume.
Yeah, I love that.
And people often like answer the phone in a movie theater like, during a film, just like, hey.
You're winding
and people
me
just
up.
think, yeah. I had this conversation last night with someone.
What?
I was like, have you ever experienced this? Just the phone answering culture. And they've been like, yeah. Occasionally I'll be watching a movie.
Yeah.
Person next to me whips out the phone.
I'm gobsmacked.
Yeah, I think it's just a thing. There is an absence of like that's not considered like out of the realm of possibility in some parts and some cultures and some people who reside in India. Not saying it's all Indian people, because I've also spoken to some Indian people and they're like, I would never do that.
Yeah, sure.
But it's definitely like, I mean, you'd never meet anyone who would do that, I don't think, from certain places.
No, unless it was an error. And I do have a little I should admit.
Yeah.
Have you got a little confession?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Last night, if you follow us hopefully you follow us on Instagram. If you don't, get over there.
Tripologypodcast.
Yeah, at Tripologypodcast. Go and have a look. Stories going up every day. But posted a little story very recently of me on my bed. And it was actually your bed opposite and my laptop. And my laptop was playing some music.
You were on my bed?
No, your bed was just in the shot.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Don't worry, I made it before I took the photo. And yeah, anyway, so on my laptop, I referenced in the post, I referenced the music I was listening to, okay? And I had my headphones there. Now, after the shot was taken, I continued to listen to the music.
Yeah.
Fantastic set, went on for an hour and a half, really enjoyed it.
You're immersed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put the headphones in so that only I could hear the music.
It's considerate of you.
Yeah, which in a 16-bed dorm is quite considerate.
I think so.
I think, especially when it's gone past midnight.
Yeah, I would say it was nothing short of rude to listen to music out in the open. So you use headphones, that's great.
Yeah, but then I proceeded to look at Instagram on my phone.
Yeah.
So there I was, flicking through reels, and you know what it's like when you get scrolling.
Oh.
I was on a scroll binge, Alun.
Your dopamine system's been hijacked. Zuckerberg.
I was there for, must have been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realised that I was listening to the music on my laptop through my headphone. But in actual fact, my phone was playing the reels out loud.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you're in a world of wonderment, like listening to music, but actually you're playing out into the world, just arbitrary reels swiping around, presumably travel content, a lot of emotional stuff.
Can you imagine the fury? You walking in or waking up, God forbid, and then you open the curtain, you're like, what is this guy doing? And it's me just flicking through my phone.
With headphones
on, so I can't hear it.
Yeah. Ruthless.
So, I've got to hold my hands up and say that was a bit of a boo-boo.
But I'll say this, every time it's happened, the whole answering the phone in the night thing, there have been times where I've like confronted.
You haven't really?
I have.
I've not got it in me.
I've gone, mate, I'm trying to sleep. Every time that's happened, there's been like, there's two things have happened as a result.
Right.
I've been met with confusion. Like, oh.
Can't you see I'm talking to someone on the phone?
Not even that, but like, just like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But also politeness and just a willingness to be like, oh yeah, okay. Like the phone's always gone away.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think it's just like I personally would never do it, but it's not. I don't think it's ever done out of malice.
No, of course not. No, it is definitely something that you should expect if you've never been sort of.
It is something you'll experience if you stay in dorms in India.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's like every traveller I've spoken to has had the experience.
I do think that. And I don't know if that can be extended to public transport. I mean, I remember loads of times when I was in China, for example, and people were sort of just speaking not just on the phone in very intimate settings surrounded by lots of strangers, but also on loudspeaker. So, I mean, I couldn't understand what was going on, of course, but everyone else certainly could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it can be extended to movie theatres, of course it can be extended to public transport. It's just like phones have just become this thing. And maybe they're important calls. And I'm sure if we answered calls, no one would have a problem with that either. Maybe it's just a thing. Maybe it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
The phone call it rates higher than sleep here. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like phone call trumps sleep. And that's it.
Yeah, maybe time is just a different thing entirely.
She's like, sorry, can you get off the phone? I'm sleeping. Sorry, can you stop sleeping? I'm on the phone.
Well, I like the way you flipped it on its head. Why couldn't it be that way round?
Maybe we're idiots.
Yeah.
Sleep when you're dead.
Yeah, or in the day, or when I'm not on the phone.
Yeah. I'm turned around on it. If anyone in the UK is listening, they've been struggling to contact me because of time differences. I'll be available at 4 a.m. from now on.
You might not be able to hear what he's saying over the cacophony of
other people talking. Yeah. I'm going to turn our dorm room to essentially a call centre at night. We're all just going to be on there. At 4 a.m, everyone wakes up. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, I've been turned around on the issue.
Yeah, and I've got no idea where it stems from or, the reasons why or the fact that it bothers me from time to time. But I'm sure I'm just cranky because, as we've said on previous episodes, I don't sleep enough, Alan.
Well, it's close to your heart because the person next to you in the dorm is the worst culprit of this that I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's almost like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
And I should just lean over because there's a little partition, right? Which separates us.
Yeah, you've got a partition, but you could pop over the top. It's about like a neighbour's fence, the partition between you and the bed next to you.
Or maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about anxieties that you experience in that setting, because I know that I'm not doing anything wrong. I like to think I'm quite a kind, approachable person.
I'd say so.
And if I was to confront someone about that, I wouldn't do it in any other way other than just trying to understand and being almost apologetic.
Mate, it's been 4 nights since I've had any sleep at all. I'm like starting to hallucinate during the daytime.
Yeah, but what I don't want to happen is to just redline the next time it happens because I haven't communicated effectively.
They call that the Alun method.
Yeah. So, it's really important. There must be lots of these scenarios, these tiny little things that occur throughout someone's trip while they're backpacking around the world. And it just gets to a point where you really should have mentioned it. But there's like the straw that broke the camel's back where you just unleash on some unsuspecting.
Yeah. Worse if it is a cumulative different travellers. So like you've been woken up several times by someone unzipping their bag.
Yeah.
And then someone who's actually trying to be considerate unzips their bag on like the 3rd day and you unleash the rage of the previous 3 nights.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a funny thing to have noticed and to observe, and I'm sure it will long continue.
I'm sure it will, and may it as well, because like I say, on my hierarchy of needs, I might do more stuff in the night in the dorm room.
Oh, yeah,
I might just put sleep really low down on the list and eat food and play golf in the room from now on.
Yeah, and like you said, we've done a complete Yui on the subject. I mean, we could have taken that initially oh, well, I guess it's just okay to speak on the phone whenever you want then.
Yeah, I think it is. Next episode of Tripology Podcast, recorded at 4 a.m. in a dorm room. Yeah. Just a quick word before we blast off into next week. We're building this community and everything's going really well. We love every single one of you. We have a YouTube channel. It's Tripology Podcast on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Tripology Podcast, at Tripology Podcast on all social media. And we have an email address, which is
tripologypodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we love to hear from people. Just interact with us on all those platforms. If you're not on the Instagram, get on it. If you're not on the YouTube, get on it. Send us an email if you love the show. If you have a question, that's great. If you just want to tell us that you're part of the community, that's great, because we getting a lot of emails at the moment, and we're loving hearing from all of you so genuinely. It brightens our day, keeps us doing what we're doing, and we love making the show. We absolutely love it. We love being here together in Mumbai doing it, and it's just so nice to meet all of you online and be able to build this community. So.
Yeah, and if you're able to like things on social media and rate the podcast on Spotify, or subscribe to the YouTube, it really helps the podcast grow, and yeah, we'll be able to keep doing this a lot longer.
Absolutely, yeah, it helps us keep doing what we're doing. Your likes and comments and emails are the fertilizer and the water that allows the plant of tripology to photosynthesize, growing up like a sort of vine until ultimately it blocks out the travel podcast sun, and we can be this huge, great big thing that we want to do, and all exciting things are going to happen. With that said, we've got to go off to the Patreon section of the podcast. It's called The Lost and Found. It's available exclusively on Patreon, patreon.com/tripologypodcast. But today, now, the present, it's very oppressive indeed, isn't it?
It is. Let's get lost and find us over there.
Yeah, let's go there now.
We'll see you there. Bye.